Hello, friends. Hello. Happy Thursday. Welcome to Craft Your Joy Live. I'm Lisa Hetrick. I'm super excited to be here with you today. Whew. It's Thursday. Okay. Today's tutorial, we are not doing a card tutorial. We are actually going to do watercolor backgrounds for future card projects today. And we're just going to have some really calm, chill watercolor color mixing experiments. I haven't really pre-planned anything. We're just kind of gonna get into the flow of watercolor, create a couple backgrounds, and have kind of a little paint and chat along the way. So I hope you find this useful today. So I see people popping in. Hello. Hi, Cherie and Gloria. Brenda, hello. Susanna from Finland, hi. Hello. Cindy Joy from Arkansas, hello. This is so cool. I love it when everybody pops in things going on. Hi, Cherie. I hope I said that right. Cherie. My apologies if I didn't get your name right. Correct. Okay, friends, let's go ahead and dive in. Oh, Susanna, you got my latest set today. That's so fun. We were going to do a card project today, but I don't know. I just kind of wanted to pull back a little bit from and just kind of play with the flow of watercolor a little bit today. So that's kind of what we're going to do. I'm going to go ahead to the overhead cam and just kind of tell you what I got going on here. I have a little mishmash of all kinds of things sitting here. Let's pop that over there. But I thought, and I think I put in the description, I don't have the supplies listed in the description. I thought I did it, but right before we went live, I realized I didn't. So, but I will. But basically, if you're on my email list, I said that we were going to, and even out in the social media, and I think I said this last week on the live, that we were just going to make some backgrounds do some watercolor backgrounds for future paper crafting projects or cards. And I thought what I would do is, I'm getting ready to sneeze, my apologies. Excuse me. What I thought I would do is add in a couple texture techniques using salt, paper towels, and plastic wrap. And then I was like, oh, well, how can we go a little bit deeper with the color mixing? So what I wanted to do was just kind of break it down into some seasonal colors and let us make 4 washy watercolor backgrounds in 4 different color combinations. And let's just kind of play with mixing colors together. No hard and fast color mixing rules, like you got to mix this with this to get this. I'm not a big fan of hard and fast rules. I'm a big fan of experimentation. So that's what we're going to do today. I hope you're cool with that. I just thought it would be fun to take a little bit of a pause. Holy smokes, it's September 11th. There's just a lot going on. So I just wanted to pause today and kind of get in the flow of watercolor. So I hope you'll join me. All right, let's get started. So first, what I'm going to do is I've got 4 sheets of this 5x7 Strathmore Ready Cut watercolor. Friends, I have shared this over and over again that this is kind of like my favorite watercolor paper for card making projects. And I really, really enjoy using it because it is 100% cotton. It's readily available. It's very affordable. And for your card making projects, it just works really well. It just works really, really well. So what I'm going to do, I brought out, so I debated, first of all, 2 funny things happened earlier today. First thing is, I had to go back and look at last week's video because I thought I was wearing this shirt. And I thought, oh my goodness, I have 2 weeks in a row where I'm wearing the same shirt. No, I wore a different color shirt. So that crossed my mind about an hour ago. And then the other thing was well, what watercolor palette am I going to use? And I didn't want to get so intense on the brand and get super nerdy about the brand as I wanted to just focus on color. So I grabbed this palette. Now, this is not a Schminke, this is a Schminky palette. However, it is not, I don't remember. These are all custom filled colors in here, and I don't remember what I did because I think I never marked them. I just did the colors. I think it's a mix of different colors that I liked, and I grabbed tubes and I made them. But what I really liked about using this palette for today, especially if you're doing this project on the replay or you're doing this project with me right now, is that the colors are very simple. We've got yellows, we have orange, we have reds and pinks and blues and greens. And that's what I wanted to do today, was keep it really, really simple to create our backgrounds. So let's dive in. Now, let's start with an autumn or the autumn. So every time I say the word autumn, I'm going to laugh at myself now. I'm a huge Gilmore Girls fan. Huge. Like I have watched that series probably so many times. Me and my daughter have watched it. It's kind of our thing. So there's this scene in there where they're reading, I think it's Rory and her grandfather are reading the newspaper, and it has this quiz about what color, what season are you, based on like your color choices. And Rory's grandfather says, I am an autumn. So every time I say the word autumn, in my head, I hear it like that, which is ridiculously funny. So for a fall watercolor palette, we tend to think of like golden oranges, golden yellows, and those kinds of hues. Oh, hello, Mary. Congratulations on your granddaughter coming home from college. And a little bit of reds mixed in. So we're going to play with those colors and just kind of create a washy background on this watercolor paper. Then I'm going to add a little bit of texture. I'm going to teach you how to add some texture with, this is cling wrap. And you can actually keep using the same piece of cling wrap over and over and over again. Wash it off, use it again if you want. And this is what we're going to use to create the texture for autumn. So let's go ahead and just kind of get started and play around. I'm going to play around with these colors right here. Let's see where we are. I've got this big wash brush. Let me move the microphone a little bit. I've got this big, huge, high penny Gilmore Girls. Oh my goodness. I just love Gilmore Girls. I actually was folding clothes. Laundry, friends, is like my least favorite thing to do ever, like ever. And I, in all of my 57 years of life, I have not mastered the art of laundry, but I feel like I'm getting a little bit better. But I was folding things last night and I'm like, you know, I got a couple minutes while I'm folding. Let's turn on Gilmore Girls. I literally turned on Gilmore Girls and started over from season 1 and just kind of watched it. And it was just kind of lovely to have it in its background noise. Anyway, I digressed. I've got this wash brush. It's chock full of water. Now what I want to do is, our techniques today are texture-based techniques and wet into wet washy watercolor techniques. So I want my entire piece of watercolor paper to be completely saturated with water. So I'm just going to go all the way across and just add a ton of water. So why did I choose this washy brush to do it? Because it was faster way to get on all that water. So look at all that water. I just love it. I am just slightly off screen. Huh. Hi, Gloria. She said, I am just slightly off screen. Okay, I'm not really sure. Everybody can see the down camera, right? And then so you might be saying like, oh, my image of my face might be slightly off screen. Tell me if that's a little bit better. Like I just moved it. So hopefully maybe that put me a little bit in screen a little bit more. Maybe it wasn't in the 1920 or whatever. My daughter got me hooked on Gilmore Girls. Oh my gosh, Gilmore Girls. Me and my daughter started watching it, I think, when she was probably like maybe 13-ish or something. And the day after Thanksgiving, or that weekend, we call it Gilmore Girls weekend. I don't know why. We just started calling it that because we would like do a little bit of our local like holiday shopping, and we only do it locally in our local shops. And we started calling it Gilmore Girls Day. And it, to this day, that's what we still call it. Okay, my paper is wet. My brush is wet. I switched to a different brush. This is a nice wash brush as well. Now I'm going to come in, I'm going to start with building up some of our autumn colors. And I'm going to start with this. This is probably color-wise, I'm going to say like a Hansa Yellow medium. So, and I'm just going to just start to add some color in here. Now, look at how it just flows, flows. Gloria, Gloria, crack me up. I forgot I enlarged the screen. No worries. That's so funny. Okay, I'm glad everybody can see me. Sometimes my head kind of is off screen unintentionally. So, all right, I added that little bit of color. Did you see how it whooshed? So that tells me, that gives me a little indication of what brand I might be using. And I think some of these colors might be Winsor Newton, not Winsor Newton, M. Graham. I'm not sure. I think some of these colors might be Daniel Smith. But again, irrelevant to what we're doing here because we're focusing on like just the colors, really, really simple colors. So I've got this golden yellow, and I'm cleaning off my brush. I'm going to come in, I'm going to pick up a little bit of orange, and I'm just going to start to drop it in a couple places and just kind of let it do its thing. Now, how am I going to mesh it all together? We're going to get there. I'm just dropping it in. And this technique is, we're doing the color mixing technique that we're doing today is mixing directly on paper. Our paper is wet, our brush is wet, all of our paint is wet, and we're mixing colors together on the paper. I'm going to pick up a little bit of this pinkish just to drop. I need that to be a little wetter. And just to kind of drop, and see how I'm just dropping stuff in. That might be a little bit too much, but we'll see. Now I'm using some of my biggest wash brushes that I have. So I'm going to grab this wash brush and see, I'm just going to add some water and just kind of mix these colors together and see what kind of brownish autumn hues I'm going to get. Now, loving this. I'm kind of loving this. This is definitely coming out very autumn-like, and I'm liking it. I want to add a little bit more of our yellow, like that yellow in. So see how I'm just going to drop it in and let it do its thing. Love that. Now, we took some, let's take a little bit of that red. I want to show you and be intentional about showing you some of that color mixing right on the paper. So I've got some of that red. I'm going to drop a little bit of it right there and right there. Clean off my brush a little bit. And I'm just playing. Remember, the brushes aren't, you work with the brushes that you have. I'm just playing with some brushes here. And I'm just mixing some of these colors. I want to add a little bit more. I'm just kind of intrigued by what that reddish color will do if I mix it directly to paper in with that orange. So I'm starting to get a little bit more of a different kind of orange, like deeper, rich, rusty like color. Okay, so see how we did all of this. Just drop a little orange in here. Paper is still like super wet, and whoosh, watching it whoosh. It's whooshing around because it's very, very wet. Now, everything is still super wet. You can see some of the droplets of of water from me dropping in some water. Now I'm going to take this. It's going to be interesting because I don't have, normally when you're using this plastic wrap technique, you kind of need to give it some time to dry so to get that real effect. But I'm just going to kind of smoosh it up a little bit and maybe just kind of plunk it down and see how it gets, like see how it's kind of in some spots and not in some spots. It's laying in the water. Now, normally I would just let this dry, but we don't have that much time to let it dry. So I'm just going to give it a minute. And then I'm just going to lift up and see if I can get anything. So not as much, not as, I get a little bit, but not the full on look that I was going for. What is really cool is that texture right there that I have can easily like be transferred onto something else and you get some really interesting texture. So let's try this again. I'm going to do a little bit like over here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to just dry things a little bit with this without getting too close and burning up that plastic. Let's see if I can make some of that texture from the plastic wrap kind of come through. You might not hear me. Some of that texture from the plastic wrap come through. Without burning the house down. I'm pushing it. So let's go ahead and pick this up. Yeah, I'm not really getting what I'm going for, but but I kind of am a little bit. You can see it. If I would let that dry, like air dry, you're definitely going to get a little bit more of that plastic wrap texture, but I can see where it is kind of lifted it up and out. So let's go ahead and dry this a little bit more so we can really see it. Okay. Love it. Love it. Okay, I'm liking it. Now I see a sea sponge. Yes. So we've got a little bit of that texture that you normally wouldn't get with the wash, which I kind of love that. Now that it's dry and I have this bit of texture here, I'm just going to kind of go over it and stamp that on. Okay. And then dry it. So kind of cool. Liking it. Let's spread this out just a little bit because it's still wet. And let's do it again down here. Just kind of fun. So let's lift that up. See what that looks like. Oh, way better. Love that. Okay. Kind of love that. So here's why I think like this kind of project is fun to do. A, you get to get your watercolors out and play with them and experiment with color combinations and just play and see what you get, right? B, you get to grab some, fun things to create some textures, and you can spend like an hour or less creating something that you might use for a future card project or something else. And it also helps like reset your nervous system because you're having fun, you're relaxing, and you're just playing with a few supplies. And that's kind of like the base concept with around Craft Your Joy and why I call this channel Craft Your Joy, what my websites call that, what my classrooms call that. it's based on that concept of really just kind of dropping in to joy through a practice, whether it's watercolor or whether it's card making or paper crafting or whatever it is. Maybe it's baking, crocheting, knitting, whatever it is for you, that just kind of helps you reset. So super fun. All right, I'm kind of digging this. Now I want to take it a step further. So we played with this like Hansa yellow light, which is more of like a golden yellow. We played with this traditional orange, which is like just a transparent orange. Now I want to take this color right here. This is burnt sienna. I love burnt sienna. Hi Daisy. Dang job. Looks like you missed something very interesting. No worries, you can always catch it on the replay. I'm going to come in here. We've got a little bit, everything's pretty much dry, but I'm going to go ahead and add just a little bit of water. I want to pick up a little bit of this burnt sienna, and where I'm seeing a little bit of water, I have to go sideways here to see. I just want to drop in a little bit of that color, okay? And just let it do its thing. Burnt sienna, friends, I want to show you. So any kind of dark in your watercolor palette, you'll see maybe like a brown but burnt sienna, this color has a brown, like brown and clay undertones with a little bit of red. It's such a vibrant color for, and kind of rusty. It's just a beautiful fall color. And you can drop it in, and I just think it's just lovely. Let's just drop in a little bit right here. I'm going to pick up a little bit of that red, and see how we're just experimenting and dropping a little bit of that red in there together with it. And I'm just dancing my brush around. And I kind of went over some of the things that I did. Let's just kind of pop that out. I really like the way this is looking. You've got like all these little blooms and movements and things like that. Some lights and darks. So with our watercolor, whenever you paint and it goes to your first layer and it goes completely dry, you end up, the value of that color fades back quite a bit in watercolor. It won't happen so much as if you're using your inks to do this project, your water-based inks, because remember they're dye-based and watercolor is pigment-based, except for liquid watercolor, and that's a story for another day. Okay, all right, friends, let's just go ahead and dry this, and let's see what we get for our autumn. Oh boy, hilarious. Okay, let's see. I kind of like it. What we're also picking up here is everything is still a little bit wet, but you can see some like granulation. And by granulation, some pigments in watercolor, when the water, when you're painting with them, and the water, the paint, and the pigment will separate, and you'll get these little, I call them like sandy-like deposits. That is granulation. And you can see that in here when I dropped in that burnt sienna, because burnt sienna is a granulating color. And I love that. Got the big dot right there. Let's just dry it again one more time. And then we're going to let it go. See that big water spot right there? That's called a bloom. Some people don't love it, and they're like, try their best to not have them. I think with projects like these texture, when we're creating these textures, they're just absolutely beautiful. They're just absolutely beautiful. So now here's the other thing, Cheryl, that's very nice. Here's the other thing about this technique is you would never be able to repeat it the exact same way or the exact same look. You're going to get different look every single time. And even if you are doing this along with me, your look is going to be completely different. Not necessarily based on supplies, but based on water and water flow and where you drop your colors and the intention you put into it. So Sari, your question, do you typically start with the lighter shade, then build with the darker? Yes, great question. And when we move on to winter, I'm going to talk a little bit about that. But yeah, so I started out with the lighter shade here, the lighter value of that, the lighter hue. So the lighter color, which was this yellow, and then we just kind of built up and added a little bit of our oranges and a little bit of our reds and a little bit of our burnt siennas on top and kind of played around. But that doesn't mean like if you started with your darker color and you butted up a lighter color up against it, that would be fun too. So, but since we were building up some colors, you can see like underneath, we have quite a few of our lights, and then you can see some of our oranges and our burnt siennas and where things had kind of laid over top. And because watercolor is transparent, you can layer these colors on top of each other, and some of the value of the color underneath it shows through, which makes it so fun. Okay, now why this makes for a really fun like future, we just kind of made our own little watercolor pattern paper. But what makes this fun is like, friends, you get out your dies. These are like a lot of my Gina K dies that I use frequently. I just keep them in this cute little basket behind me so that I can quickly grab them. But like, how fun is it to just take this and then you're positioning your die where you would like it to be. And in some cases, depending upon what you're doing, you're going to get, you know, two things out of it. And then you're going to cut these up. And then you're going to have some backgrounds for your paper crafting projects. So super fun. So I think I got a bunch in here. We'll play with those. We'll play a little bit more with those. Okay, this is our autumn pattern background. Now, I'm excited to move to our next one, and that is winter. Winter colors. So let's talk a little bit about some of the winter colors. So this is ultramarine blue, and this is like a cobalt turquoise blue. I think. I don't know the official name because I can't remember the brand that's in here. But these are the two blues that I have in here. And I'm going to just do a little bit of color mixing with some blues and reds to get a little bit of our violets too to create our winter backgrounds. Oh, Cheryl, that's a fantastic idea. Cheryl just shared with that autumn pattern, with that autumn color, use some leafery dyes. Well, she said leaf, but I said leafery. And I don't have any leafery dyes in here. Those I do have separate. But that would be cool, and I'm totally going to do that so that I can have them on hand. Okay, now we're going to do some winter. Let's do some winter. So I've got my big old honkin' washi brush. Now, friends, you don't need a washi brush. If you just need a big brush. If you have one of those like foam brushes, I actually was looking for my foam brushes and I think I got rid of them all. You could use one of those. You just need a big brush that'll hold some water. That's all. So see how wet that is? Now let's begin to play with our winter colors. And for this one, we're going to do a salting technique. Many of you have seen me do this before. I know Cherie is here. She's seen me do this before. I've done this on the channel before. I think the salting technique for winter color palette is just delightful. So that's what we're going to do. All right, I've got a little bit of ultramarine blue here. I could easily put some down. I'm just literally going right to my palette here. I'm going to turn this a little bit so that we can see, and I'm just going to drop down. See how I'm just not going like this? You could go like this. I want to play a little bit though. and just kind of create this illusion of there being a sky, but sort of not. And what I ended up doing is I've got a little bit of that blue, but I also picked up a little bit of that purple on the other side. I'm going to drop in some of that purple. Let's pick up a little bit more. I don't even think that's purple. It's kind of a violet-y color. Let's just drop a little bit of that in. So see how we're just mixing our colors together right on our paper. I'm loving this. Loving it, loving it, loving it. Now, let's just add, I want to show, if we were going to mix colors to get a deeper purple, see, I'm going to take a little bit of this blue, just got this big honking brush, and I want to just add some of that blue there. I'm going to clean my brush. Normally I wouldn't. I'm going to clean it though. Yes, this whole technique is my favorite. I'm going to pick up some of that red. Drop some of that red in there. This is really super washy. So I have kind of a really washy, smoky like violet happening here. That's a serious looking winter sky, man. Let's play around with that. All right, everything is very, very wet. But I want to get a little bit more blue in here for that drama. Now remember, it feels like it might be like too intense of the blue right now. But remember, when we dry, everything fades back quite a bit. Oh, I love that. Okay, I had an idea, but I'm going to wait. I almost nerded out there. So let's go ahead and dry. I'm going to dry this. Then we're going to go in and we're going to add a little bit of that cobalt bluish turquoise color, which is this one right here. Let's see what we get. So let's go ahead and dry. This is really wet. So you can see how, so this is really, really wet. You can see, you're going to see me move some of that water around. Anybody else see that heart right there? I immediately looked down and saw that heart. Right there. Let me know in the chat if you see it. Okay. Also, while I'm drawing it, I'm nerding out here. You see that violet color, this color right here that we used? That's kind of telling me now that I'm drying it. I'm seeing it granulate. You can see those granules that look a little bit like sand. I think that color is cobalt violet. I'm not sure, but I think it is. Yay, everybody's seeing it. Yay. Love, friends. All right, let's go ahead. Okay. I don't want it to be completely dry yet because we are going to add some salt and I am going to add another layer of color, but look at that wintry, moody sky. Oh, I'm digging it. Now, ultramarine blue, the blue that I used, is a granulating color pretty much in every brand that exists. So you can see some of that granulation that's happening there. I'm going to come in. I'm going to add just a little bit of water. I'm getting this watery again. And you can see that I lifted because I'm adding some more water. I'm getting a little bit movement. I'm going to add a little bit of that cobalt in and just kind of see what we get. Oh, I'm so happy that the experiment today is kind of working because I really just kind of wanted us all to drop into the flow a little bit and just experiment. Even if you're not experimenting with me, this may give you the inspiration to just kind of pull what you have. Maybe you have a little bit of time this weekend or to carve out to do this and just kind of play a little bit. Eek! I'm loving this. This is so cool. All right, I'm going to bring in some salt and then we're going to dry. Now, salt is a lot like our plastic wrap. We should like let it dry and do its thing, but I do it a little bit differently. I end up adding salt and then we hit it with the heat and we kind of force it dry and we see what we get. So this is some of that flaky sea salt. I use it with my bread. So I'm just going to drop it in and I want you to see what happens. You can see that when I start to drop it into the color and I'm just kind of pinching it and squeezing it together as I drop it in, you can see like there's this oxidation kind of thing going on. You'll see some of the watercolor kind of move out and move around a little bit, which makes it really exciting. Because you're like, what are we gonna get? What are we gonna get? You can see it. It just kind of like, sort of like OxyClean, like when you, or like when you put peroxide on something, you see whoosh. You see a like a chemical reaction happen. That's what's happening here. It's really, really cool. Okay, now I'm gonna force all of this dry, and then I'm gonna roll the salt off. And then we're going to do one more thing to kind of finish off our winter pattern background. It's going to take a little bit to dry because it's very, very wet. So let's go ahead and turn it sideways so you can kind of see how wet it is. Oh. Try not to burn myself. Whew. Wow. I'll also kind of tip it over a little bit. Nice. All right, digging it. Now, I am going to dry underneath here a little bit, just because I got quite a bit going on there. Now, while I was doing this, while I was drying it, I had this thing pop in my head about if you don't have watercolor and you're using your paper crafting inks, whether it be water-based ones, Gina K ones, Tim Holtz ones, whatever you have, distress inks, you can replicate these techniques with those inks. You might just have to work a little bit harder depending upon the inks that you have, but you can absolutely create these color mixing backgrounds using your inks in your stash. Okay, I've got this makeup brush that I've never used for makeup. I actually just use it to kind of rub salt off. So see how I'm just kind of going in. I really want that to be a little bit drier. If I feel a spot that seems kind of wet, just kind of hit it a little bit more. So I'm just going to go ahead and use this little brush and try to keep it all in one place. But, you know, messy, messy. Ah, Cheryl, great question. Cheryl's question, when drying, do you have your heat tool on a lower setting or the one we use for embossing? So I have this Wagner heat tool and there's one setting. So this is the Wagner heat tool that I use for embossing. So yeah, um, it gets really, really hot. So the closer you are to your paper, the more the chance you have of burning your paper. But you can see I got really, really close because I really did want to kind of heat up that salt and get everything really, really dry because I wanted to get that oxidation. Look at that. Love it. Oops. Heat tool hit the ground. Heat tool hit the ground. That's all right. We'll pick it up and use it for the next round. Okay. Let's go ahead and move some of this out of the way. And now what I want to do, I want to make sure, so it feels a little crusty. So there are some little texture bits on here. I actually kind of like leaving some of them on. You can always tip it like this and take some of it off. Here's why I love the salting technique, is because it gives you that granulation look to your color. It makes everything look like it's granulated, and it adds a lot of texture. And you saw how we built this up. It was just a few colors. So all that texture without any of the height. So you can add this to your card project so easily. Like, look how pretty that would be. This is going to be brilliant. And I'm going to save this background for something coming up. Hint, hint. Something coming up. Okay, now what I want to do is I may ruin it. It may happen. I want to add a little splatter with some of this Dr. P.H. Martin's Bleed Proof White. So I'm just going to take a little bit of this, and I'm trying to be like kind of wet, but not super wet, not super dry. I think it's getting ready to rain, friends. And I'm just going to add a little bit of splatter that just kind of finishes off its wintry look. Wow, I didn't ruin it. Although, I love it. I absolutely love it. I'm going to let that dry. We'll bring that back before the end so I can show that to you. So Dr. P.H. Martin's Bleed Proof White. My last little jar I had for like 15 years, and I lost it. So I don't know what happened. I took it somewhere, left it, and lost it. So Daisy, that is beautiful. Hard to believe I can make something like that. You can. You saw how we did it. How I did it was just a couple little swooshes of wet water and color, and then bam, we made that fun background. So here's our fall, and here's our winter. Now let's go ahead and move on to spring. So spring is interesting. In spring, we always think of pastels or lots of greens, really pale yellows, really pale, like lavender like colors. So like some greens. This might even be a little bit too dark. Like buttercup yellow, a little bit of lavender to create our spring. So I'm going to start with a little bit of lemon yellow, but I'm going to tone it down significantly. So I'm going to wet this. So I'm going to wet the entire paper like we have. There's a little bit of blue in there, unfortunately. Okay, there's a little bit of blue. So wet the entire paper. Yeesh, get out. There's a little hair. A little bit of blue there. Whatever. And then I'm going to come in with a little tiny bit of lemon yellow, but a little bit, because I really want it to be kind of washed down. And lemon yellow can be very, very bright, like lemons, right? So, great question, Cheryl. So see how I have just a little bit of this yellow here? And I really want it to be washed out because I really want that buttercup look to it. So I'm adding a lot more water. So this is really like our skim milk version of this color. Very, very light on the pigment. So if it gets too bright, see, I'm just kind of dropping it in the water, a little bit too bright. I'm going to add some water to it. While I'm doing that, I'm going to answer Cheryl's question. Cheryl just shared that your jar of Dr. P.H. Martin's has dried. Can you add water and use it again? Absolutely. That jar that I had for 15 years was completely dried out. And every time I would just pop it open, add a little bit of water, kind of mix it up and use it again. You absolutely can. Okay, I've got that buttercuppy kind of look right there. Loving that. Now I'm going to come in. This is going to be interesting because we're color mixing some yellows, a little bit of greens. I'm going to go to green next. And then we're going to figure out how we're going to, oh, everything just kind of got weird with my camera lights. So that's weird. Let's go like this, and then let's go like that. Every time I do yellow, my camera lights get weird. So let's see if it'll correct itself. I don't want to add the pale lavenders yet, because if I add them to the yellow, I'm going to get brown, and I don't want that. So I'm going to pick up a little bit of these greens. Very, very pale. So here's the green I'm using, which this green is like a viridian green, sort of like a clovery like green. And see, when we worked on the other two, we were working in more of a water to paint concentration, closer to like a 2% milk or 100% like 100% milk. Here I'm definitely working in lighter washes in the skim milk range, where you get that skim milk, or you're even like a almond milk, or maybe like a oat milk, and everything is a little bit watery. That's what we're doing. So I'm picking up pigment. My brush is wet, my paper's wet, but you can see that I'm just kind of dropping in that color and getting that green, but everything is very, very pale. Got a little bit of hair going there from this brush. Let's go ahead and pop that out. Let's drop that in. Sometimes these brushes shed, and that happens. Now, I really do want to add that lavender in, but I'm not going to do it yet because I really want to dry this and then just kind of add it in. I'm just going to drop a few more bits of green, like right here. See how the green and the yellow are mixing? Even if I just dropped a little bit of yellow in there. See how they're mixing a little bit together, and I'm getting that yellow green. Loving that. Loving the way that looks. Okay. Let's go. Oh, I need to get my heat tool that fell on the ground. So there we go. Let me pop my face out so that I can get up and get it. Okay. Alrighty. Here we got this pretty green and beautiful yellow. I would say in the Gina K line of colors, you've got that jelly bean green color going on right here. I love it. Jelly bean green, one of my favorites. All right, let's go ahead and dry it. Okay. Oh, this feels very springy. When the daffodils, it feels very, very springy. Like when the daffodils start popping up and you start to see a little more green. Okay. There we go. Let's not drop it this time. Let's put it in its cup. Okay, loving that. Loving the way that looks. Now I want to go in and I want to experiment with adding a little bit of lavender in here. And I think I'm going to do like a little bit up here, just kind of keep it in that skim milk range though. So really, really wet brush. This is like not super dry. It's still a little bit wet. And I'm going to pick up this color right here and see how I just had a little droplet of it. And maybe not enough. Just a little droplet of it. And just kind of come across a little bit like that. Clean off my brush. And just keep this wet. Keep this really wet and keep it moving. Now, got a little bit of an undesirable color right here. So I'm just going to sop that up, let that roll. And add a little bit right here. And just kind of touching that, just lightly touching some of that color in. Oh, that's going to be a little intense, but let's go ahead and play with it. So it almost has a little bit, oh, I went out of frame there a little bit. A little bit of a kind of an Easter eggy kind of look to it. So I like it. I like it. It's very, very pale, very, very faint. I'm going to try one more thing. This may blow the whole caboodle. I'm going to pick up a little bit of that blue. Again, we're experimenting. That little bit of that blue that we used in the winter, because I had that whole Easter eggy kind of concept. This blue right here, it can be very Robin's Eggish. Let's see. And let's just go ahead and let that do its thing for a minute. And then we're going to, my brush is super wet. And then I'm just going to tap, 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 tap some water in. Let that cobaltish like blue mix with the greens. Eek! And I kind of like it. Just kind of tap, tap, tap. See, I'm just tap, tap, tapping. I want to add a little bit of yellows back in. Now that's a little intense, so how am I gonna, I'm gonna come back in with a really wet brush. Just kind of tap, 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 and bring that back to life. I feel like I want a little bit more yellow up here. Let's just tap in a little bit of yellow. All right, and I feel like this is very, very springy. I want to do something right here. This definitely has a very nice spring feel to it. And it is very, very pale in comparison to the level of brightness that you got from this one, and especially winter. But that's kind of cool. Liking it. All right, we're going to dry it. My instincts are telling me, Lisa, stop. Lisa, stop. Dry it. Let it ride. Okay. How are we doing on time? Woo! All right. We got like, I'm going to run a little bit over today, friends. I'm going to try to hurry up the last one. Go ahead and dry it. I'll dry it a little bit. And I'll let it dry and I'll bring it back in the end. But can you kind of see it? It feels a little bit landscapey. So nerd out with me for a moment, friends. Hold on. This is what I'm seeing. So we have a little bit of a mountain here, a little bit of a background. Got a little bit of a water going on here. Some moody sky. Like I can see the development of something in this background that just kind of feels fun. Would I go back in and try to create a landscape? Probably not. I would definitely, probably grab my die cut this out, and then keep in mind, like wherever I'm placing my embellishment, I might strategically place it somewhere around a color formation that feels like it goes with that embellishment. So that was a super nerd out, friends. That was a super nerd out. All right, let's go ahead and do summer. And summer, we're going to use a paper, thank you, Sari. We're going to use a paper towel method to kind of create some texture, the texture of summer. which, you know, most of us have just gotten over summer, or you might still be feeling summer. So let's talk a little bit about summer colors. So again, our yellows, a little bit of this red, rusty kind of color in it, that heat, that feeling of heat in summer, especially this summer. I don't know about you, friends, but it was hot in Maryland. All right, super wet, wetting everything down again, going both ways, super wet. This brush is very sheddy. Sheddy, sheddy, sheddy. Yeah, Cheryl said, when you put the dye against that, a landscape really came out. It did. I could see that landscape. I could see it underneath there. Um, I'm not a really good landscape painter. I've experimented a few times and I'm learning, but I can still see it. So it's kind of fun. I might play with that a little bit more. Okay, I'm going to come in and I'm going to start with my more warm yellows. I'm going to come in with that Hansa. So again, I'm going to build these colors up from yellows to reds to oranges. And we're going to build up light to dark. So I'm kind of going in. You can see I got a lot of pigment on here. So I'm going in with a water to paint ratio between a 2% milk and a whole milk. Okay. So see how you could definitely see some vibrancy in the color, but it's definitely still got a little bit of washiness to it. Love that. All right, now come in with a little bit of that red. This red right here is, this one right here, is alizarin crimson. I still don't know which brands I put in here. I've got a lot of water in there. You can see I got quite a bit of pigment. This is, whoa, this might end up a little bit deserty. I kind of did a little bit too much there. So that's okay. Yes. Cheryl, you're right. I could put in some features and get that landscape going. Okay, I'm just tapping and just kind of moving this around a little bit. All right, then I'm going to come in. I'm going to dry this back a little bit. I feel like if you feel like you have too much, and I do feel like I do have a little bit of much going on here, I'm just going to sop up some of that water. Sop it up. I can always add it back in. But this definitely has this heat miser vibe going to it, right? It's very, very, very summer, but I'm digging it. All right, now I want to come in and get me a little bit of a rusty kind of color going in here. Another summer thing that you could do would be like a red, like if you were going to do holiday, you could do a red and a blue. Let's add a little bit of this going on in here. Now I got a lot of color just kind of blending and meshing together. So I'm cool with that. I'm going to lift some of it away. I'm going to take this paper towel. I'm going to lift some of it away. See how we've got little channels of color? They're kind of becoming friends. And I'm just going to do, 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 do. If you can like imagine, imagine a little dog going do, 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 do. Or cats don't do that. I have two, as you know. See how I'm getting some of that paper towel texture? Do, 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 do. You don't need to sing while doing that. Look at that, those colors just kind of blending together though. This definitely has that summer feel to it. What I want to do is I want to take some paper towel, and because this paper towel has like this built-in texture to it, I'm going to lay it in some of the areas that have a little bit more of a pooled water and color, and just kind of see what I get. You could use anything that kind of had a texture, but see how I'm pulling out some of that. See how I get a little bit of that texture? I don't love that it pulled so much away, so I might add a little bit of that back in, but I do love that texture that's in there. So let's just maybe work a little quicker just to get little taps of texture. That's a pretty wet area. So that's going to be interesting. And right in here, I've got this like solid, like burnt sienna kind of area going. And I think I might just want to add a little bit more. Just kind of make it look less like a blob and more like boop, 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 boop. See, I'm just dancing my brush around. Add a little bit of yellow back in over here. And see, I'm just dancing some color back in. And just by the nature of the way I'm dancing it, you get a little bit of texture too. Kind of loving that. Let's do one more little boop. Oh, that kind of just pulled it. That was one way of doing it with the paper towel. It just kind of pulls the texture away, which is cool. Thank you, Cheryl. Cheryl just shared you make watercolors. So much fun. It is fun. And the thing about it is that you just play. We just had a handful of colors and we let them do their thing on the paper. We didn't overthink color mixing, like I'm going to mix this color with this color to get this color, which there's a time and a place for that, friends. But instead, we just let them kind of do their thing on the paper, and then we get all of these other feelings and emotions, and you definitely can feel the seasonality of that color palette. So let's go ahead and dry it. Oh, that's wet. Start up here. Ouch. Now, friends, see how the water is only going, like I'm pushing the water with the heat tool, but it's not going across the paper because this area is dry. Water will only go as far as it can. And as soon as it hits that dry spot, it's not going to go any further. See how I keep pushing it? Love it. Love it. Oops. Made a little texture there. Got a little salt on there. I can dry the back here. Okay. Loving this. This definitely feels like the summer we just had to me. Like a scorcher. It definitely feels like it. All right, let's land the plane, right? Let's bring all of our colors back in, our palettes back in. So, and let me move my face because I think my face is a little in the way. Might need to pull out a little bit just so we can see what we got here. Okay, so we have our summer. We have our spring. We have our winter. And we have our autumn. Look at those. So let's look at all of them separately. Here's our autumn with that little bit of a plastic wrap kind of feel. Now remember, if you're going to do that plastic wrap technique and you've got the time, let the plastic wrap and the whole paper and the color just dry and you'll get more of an intense effect. Okay, winter. Winter, winter, winter. Love that one too. I'm just trying to spread them out so we can see them all at once. Making a huge mess here. There we go. Loving it. Here's our winter. Here's our spring. Here's our summer. Loving that. Like think about if you would grab like a heart from your die set and you were doing like some kind of lovey summer thing. That would be kind of really cool. And then think about this technique in relationship to holidays in your card making projects. Like if you wanted to do Christmas and Valentine's Day and Thanksgiving and all of those different kinds of holidays that kind of have some defined color palettes around them, you could do these backgrounds very, very easily. Very, very easily. Um, thank you, Cherie. Yes, winter looks kind of like a galaxy. So if anybody got that new, I kind of regret that I did not get the stamp set, but I think I'm going to get it. And I think it was in the kit this past September, this past month with, no, was that August? August release with Gina. The moon, that stamp, I think it was in the kit. I think I'm going to get it next month or this month when it is outside of the kit. But that moon, can you imagine doing like this background and doing that moon? Oh my gosh, that would be so cool. This definitely has an Easter eggy like vibe, and I can still see that landscape. This definitely makes me feel like the heat of the summer that we just came out of, and also the beautiful zinnias, like the beautiful late summer um, colors that pop out, like sunflowers, Mexican sunflowers. And this definitely has that whole look and feel of October, autumn. Yes, so everyone in the chat, tell me which one is your favorite, because I think the winter is my favorite. Um, I like all the techniques. So if I love all the techniques to kind of create these and the colors, but I think the winter was my favorite. I think because it's just so, I don't know, cool, happy. I don't know. They're all very cool and happy, and they all definitely have an emotion and feeling. But how fun is this? I've got 4 different 5x7 backgrounds now to create some paper crafting projects. So how fun is that? Okay, friends. Yeah, we went about 9 minutes over today, but eek, eek. Winter. Everybody's saying winter. All of them. Gloria said all of them. I do like all of them. And when they dry, so they're still a little bit damp, but when I revisit these like a little bit later and they've got like that crunchy kind of feel to them because they had so much water in them and they're completely dry, I'm gonna see like all different things and maybe just get a bunch of dies out and just start cutting them up and keep putting them in my stash. So autumn, autumn. Okay, friends, thanks so much for joining me today. I hope this tutorial, this kind of pause and paint and play today, kind of really just brought you a little bit of joy for this week. And I'm sending you into the weekend to craft your joy. I hope if you want to do this technique, get your supplies out, carve out a little time. You can see it didn't take that much time. And just kind of play around with color combinations and your watercolor and see what kind of color mixes that you can create. Okay, friends, I will be back next Thursday. Today is what, the 10th, so that's like the 17th-ish. Yeah, that's going to be the week before I think the next release, but I will be back next Thursday. I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet. I've got this feeling, I've got this idea about a card mashup, and I haven't executed it yet, so I'm not sure it'll work because sometimes the ideas up here don't always work. But I think I'm going to come back with a paper crafting project next week. I'm not sure yet. If you are interested in my email list, all of that information is down below in the description. If you're on my email list, I send out an email prior to the lives during the week, and the link is there, so it makes it really easy for you instead of hunting and pecking and looking for things. Also, I do have my free community at craftyourjoylab.com. That community has been a joy to experiment with since I launched it earlier this year, and new people are joining every year. But basically, it's become the hub. So there's a lot of tutorials there, in addition to what you see here on YouTube or what you see on my website. And it's also a place where you can share your work with me or all of us there and ask questions. And I'm happy to give you feedback. And it just makes it a really easy place for us to be in community with each other together. So if you are interested in that, it's free to you. Now it's free to you. I don't have any paid things in there yet. I might someday, but right now it's free. So everything is, all of the things I've talked about today are down below in the description with the exception of supplies. And I'll get back to that. So, all right, friends, thanks so much for joining me today. I cannot wait to see if you create some of these color mixing backgrounds. If you do, share them with me. It would bring me such joy. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you next week. Bye now, friends.